Wait for okay. Well, I think just started recording. Yeah, and I saw. Sorry, guys, for that. And please, if you really want to share something, ask for the permission to do it. We are all humans. I think even though we are humans, we cannot just tolerate anything like that. Anyway, let's continue. So let's start from here. So we said, and also okay. Just so the last Sunday speaker who just joined, uh, his name, yeah, Mamun, you are here, right?
Yes, Joseph.
Thank you. Yeah. So today we are talking about puppets. That is in comparison with Ansible, but the main topic is Ansible. So, as we started, guys,
We can't hear you.
using my
You're breaking.
oh, sorry. Am I audible?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Just a minute. Let me just reload this router. Okay, yeah. I think I should be back, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I want to use my simple tool here that will allow me to be using some. Okay. Uh-huh. Cool. Am I still audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so as we were saying, our main focus will be the deploy part of this infinite tool for DevOps. So, and in this very small section for the deploy part, we have Puppet, we have Shep, and we have Ansible together with Salt Stack. The main focus being Ansible, we need to understand how does Ansible work, why should we use Ansible, and maybe when to use Ansible. Amongst the very many reasons, as maybe we know, is that Ansible is agentless. Now, still stuck in this image here from Edureka, we have Puppet, which was the main topic last week, and it being here, and we have Ansible. So how does these two compare? One thing we saw, which is the main thing, is that Puppet is agent-based. Ansible, on the other hand, is agentless. What do we mean by that? One, we saw that Mamun last Sunday said that we need to install Puppet on the node, or rather on the slave node. Ansible, you don't need to install it on the node, or rather on that managed node. You just need to install it on your control node, which, if you're talking about Puppet, we'll talk about the master. So this is what we said, that according to the research that has been done this year by 6sense, Ansible market share has grown to unimaginable as a tool for configuration management. And remember what we said here. So we are talking about Ansible in terms of configuration management and also in terms of infra as code. Yeah, so let's continue. We also said that over 29,481 companies are using Ansible. That is 29,481 companies. These are not startups. These are real companies, Fortune 500 companies, enterprise companies, big companies, as I already said. And when you now talk about companies, this for it to be called a company and a research will be done on that, it means it's a company which has 50 and above employees. So you can imagine the number of users, now individual users that are using Ansible. So another reason as why you need, maybe you'll be using Ansible. One, we said maybe, I think there was a time I said, for you to note that a tool is best. Remember, we don't have right tools, but we have the best tools. For a tool to be best, it must be having a wide customer base or user base, because if it has a wide user base, it means its community is also wide. And you can trust me, you don't want to use a tool which does not have a community support. Yeah, we all know that. So We came back here to this point where we are not talking about Ansible, which is Ansible, uh, point to note about Ansible and so on. So we said Ansible is a modern configuration management tool that facilitates the task of setting up and maintaining remote servers. Keyword here, remote servers. These remote servers node can either be cloud-based or on-prem based. So think about a remote server of as a server either on cloud or on your prem, that is on premises. And as we are saying, maintaining remote servers with a minimalist design intended to get users up and running quickly. So as we said, one of the very many KPIs, I think there are around 4 or 6 KPIs for DevOps, one of them being the frequency of deployment. How frequently do you deploy? So with this line here that the users get up and running quickly. So this is just a solution to that. It will answer to your DevOps requirements or KPIs. Another thing is that users write Ansible provisioning scripts in YAML. So I know up to this point, most of us have seen YAML, which is, I think, one of the simplest language, most readable language. I said either number 2 or 1 to Python, because I think Python is one of the most readable. Then we have YAML here. But these configuration languages, we have YAML, we have TOML, we have INI. Think they are the most readable ones, and I bet we can all agree on that. So Ansible does not require any special software to be installed on the nodes. Remember, these are the servers that we are installing, or rather we are provisioning. We do not need to install Ansible on those servers. That is, you all need to install it on your control node. This means that Ansible is agentless. You are seeing here, Ansible is agentless. Now, these are some points to note. Idempotent behavior. We said this is a behavior whereby if you run a script once, with the same arguments, you expect the same result. No matter how many times you run this script, the result will still be the same. That is getting the same results or output when the same commands are run. So we also said that this here, mostly when you say support variables, conditionals, and loops, these are the things that we usually see in our uh, programming languages. You expect it to be seen in our YAML, or rather in our playbook, which is now our Ansible playbook. You'll see the variables defined. You'll see conditions. The conditions you are talking about, akina for loops, akina if, akina whatever. Yeah, those things. Then we talk about the control node. The control node, in terms of Puppet, you talk about the master node. This is where we have the control node on Ansible. This is where Ansible is installed. You install uh, your Ansible on your control node, or rather on your master. But in terms of Ansible, we'll talk about control node. Then we have the managed nodes. Now, this is where we are installing, or rather we are provisioning. These are now our remote servers, be it on cloud or either on prem, which you should know that by now, Ansible uses SSH to communicate with these servers. So using the SSH, the control node will be able to access the managed node using that SSH, and using that SSH, it will now be able to execute these scripts and do the provisioning, or rather, do the handling of services on that server. That is the remote server. Then we talk about Ansible working working in these two things here. We have the main part, which is, I hope you can see my cursor, or rather my pointer. We have the inventory, and inventory I'm not talking about. It's a file which contains a list of hosts, and these hosts are now I'm talking about now these remote servers. You can be having a couple of remote servers. One of these servers that is where you want to install, or rather uh, you want one server to be running your database, so you want to provision that server for your database. You have another server which you want to be handling your maybe APIs. You have that server, and you have another server which you want to be handling your front-end scripts, or rather your front-end maybe built using React, using Angular, or other Vue. So you have an inventory, that is the list of hosts. Then you have tasks. A task, just as the name suggests, it's an individual unit of work to execute. Like say you are saying pip install Ansible. That's a task to install Ansible. Now, a couple of tasks all coupled together, they'll form a playbook. So a playbook contains an ordered list of tasks and a few other directives to indicate which hosts are the targets of the automation. Don't worry about that. We'll see it. Yeah, so a playbook will remember this playbook is written in YAML, but the inventory list, or rather this file, is written in ini, that is .ini, but this one is .yaml. So this one here, uh, apart from now the tasks for saying like say install, you also have the handlers. One of the handlers is like you say, you said install Nginx and ensure it's running. When now you bring that aspect of ensuring that it's running, or rather it's started, that's a handler. So you'll see a playbook with tasks and handlers. So you have a handler here, performs actions on services like start, etc. Then we have roles. A role is a set of playbooks and related files organized in a predefined structure that is known by Ansible. Now, when you talk about roles, say here we have one server that you want to do a couple of things. These things include, like say, we want to install Postgres, ensure that this Postgres started and it's running and it has a database which already has the data. So here you've talked about a role, which is Postgres as a role, and you have also talked about a handler, which is to ensure that this Postgres is running, yeah, and it has the data. So you have a role and a handler at the same time, which you are saying it's all like a list of all playbooks relating to that role. So you have a list, or rather, you have a playbook for for Postgres, and you'll have its handler as a file separately. Then you have another role like say MySQL, where you want MySQL to be installed, running, database created, and maybe ensure that you have executed, or rather you have added the data to that database, which will be created on your MySQL server or client, etc. So these are some of the main points to note. Yeah, so let's continue. Now, this is one thing that Bill Gates said. Automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. Food for thought. Yeah, so now let's talk about how to install and configure Ansible. One thing you'll note, maybe you'll ask yourself, why Ubuntu? Why did you choose Ubuntu? Why not maybe Windows? I think one of the very many things that qualifies you to be a DevOps engineer is that one, you must be a Linux guru, or rather a Linux expert. So anything that you are doing as a DevOps, I expect to be seeing you doing your things on Linux. This is not something to complicate, or maybe to improvise on, or maybe we start an argument on this. Why use Ubuntu? Why not? Or rather, why use Linux and not Windows? We all agreed as DevOps engineers, or rather they agreed, because okay, I was not there. I found it wanted to me a wanted to be a Linux. So yeah, so if they are using Linux, I also expect you to be using Linux. Now, how to install and configure Ansible on Ubuntu? Currently, I think we are on Ubuntu 22.04, but let's talk just about 20.04. After all, I don't think I'll be doing a lot on this, because again, I don't take it as a good example of doing it. And I'll give a reason as to why not a good approach. That is for me. But it's still a good approach if you are taking, or rather treating Ansible as a config management tool. But if you want to treat it as infra as code, it is a bad approach. Yeah, so these are just some simple steps to install Ansible. You ensure that you've added its repository, update your system, and install using sudo. That is, you've escalated your privileges and installed Ansible. So this Ansible here is system-wise installed. So this one is reflecting your whole system, or rather it's installed in your system. So you have some 4 question marks here. So is it really a good approach to install it there? The answer is yes and somehow no. The part where it's yes, it's a good approach, is where you want to just treat it as your control node, basically control node. But if you wanted to treat whatever you'll be writing, these scripts that you're writing as your infra as code, I don't think it's a good approach. In fact, not even thinking, it's not a good approach. So here we have the codewise approach where you are now using pip package to install Ansible. So pip install Ansible. Now, when you talk about pip, we are now starting to talk about Python. And when you talk about Python, the one of the best approaches when you are building or developing in Python is to use virtual environments. So one thing here you'll need to do is to create your virtual environment, then activate it and install Ansible on that environment. By this, you ensure that it's not installed in your system, but rather it's installed in your virtual environment. One good thing about it is that you'll now have a requirements.txt file where you can add Ansible and any other library which is required to run your project. So you can imagine when you are even cloning your, or rather you have a project on GitHub and it has requirements and Ansible. So, it will be a good approach, or rather you'll see it as a good approach to installing or managing your Ansible configurations, that is scripts. Yeah, so how to set up Ansible inventories is, remember what we said, inventories, these are lists of hosts. Setting up hosts, and remember it's written in ini file, or rather in this format, ini. That's what I mean by ini.ini. Yeah, so this is an example of a file that is an inventory file. Usually call it hosts, and you can see it's just hosts. It does not even have, like you are saying, hosts.ini. But if you are really a software engineer or rather a DevOps engineer, by just seeing a file, if you are shown a page with a file, you don't even need to see its extension, file extension. You'll know the type of format which that is. Now here you can see we have the inventory file. We have one of our main server here being web. In fact, I don't have another server, I just have a server which I named it web. And down there we have an IP address. So with that, you can either use an IP address in that bit, or we all know what an IP address can be resolved into. That is, you can have a domain name which is now pointing to this IP address. So you'll have a domain name and not an IP address, which to me is one of the best, again, in terms of security based approaches, where you are having now a domain name, but not basically the IP address being embedded here. Then we have the variables which are now supporting this server here, or this host here, that is the web. And one of them is the Ansible SSH key, which is the private file. Okay, remember, as I said initially, Ansible uses SSH to communicate to its to remote servers. So here you have to point it to redirect it, or to direct it the file location of your SSH private key. Remember, when you generate your SSH keys, you have two keys. You have the public and the private. Initially, for your server, for your remote server to be communicating with your local machine, you have that you like there must be a connection between your local machine and remote. And how do you ensure that? Is that you ensure that you've added your public key on your remote server. So now, for it to be knowing the location of your private key, you define it here. Then you see here you are defining the Ansible user. So it will be the user that you want to be using your Ansible, or be the user who will be executing these scripts. Remember, if you've run into, or rather you've ever executed these scripts, one of the many errors you might be finding is that you get the public key permission denied, because either the user is not found, or the SSH key is not found, etc, etc. Then here we have the extra arguments, and you are saying strict host key checking, and you state it to no, or rather you define it to no, or you assign no to it. Then you want it to be logging your logs here, that is this host, the user known host file. You want it to be here. You don't want to redirect it to because remember we are working on a virtual environment, not in a real environment. It's a virtual environment. You don't want to redirect this or give the location of your known hosts in your machine. And again, on that server, you tend to assume you don't know even the location of this file. You only know the SSH key which is added there. And what happens when you are trying to SSH, that challenge, the hand challenge that happens between the remote and the local server. Yeah, so in addition to hosts, or rather the inventory, you have now the ansible.config. This is the configuration, the .cfg file, which again, remember how I have named my inventory here. I have named it as hosts. So the CFG file will be telling it my defaults. These are my defaults. So inventory will be named as hosts. And also you are now telling it to do some things like this, like one force transport that you're using there, the protocol that you're using is SSH etc. This is a .cfg file. Now, once you have that uh, setup, that is the host, the next thing you will need to be thinking about is your playbooks. But before then, now let's see this, how to manage multiple servers with Ansible ad hoc commands. Remember, you already have now your inventory, and I think one of the very many things we tend to do when you already have the SSH key, or rather the IP address of your server, is to ensure you can connect to it. So you do SSH and the IP address if you're on Google, or SSH and now the name of that server in terms of the username of that server, or rather the server at your username, something of sort, for it to be accessed. Then another thing that or another way of testing if there are connections is using ping. Can you ping to that IP address that you have? Remember, here I'm trying to ping to my inventory. Remember, we've said the inventory is this list of hosts. So we have the IP address or the domain name. So you're trying to ping and see if uh, you can have or establish a connection between that server and you yourself. So we also have here where you can be using full colons to now test the connection between these groups. Remember, here we only have one group, that is the web. So you might be having multiple of groups, that is, you will be having server 1, server 2, DB servers, etc, all those, and you can test their connections using this. Another thing is to test the connection, or rather to ping, using the private key. This is it. So you have the servers. Remember, here we already have the inventories, which is this. So you have this IP address, and you are trying to test the connectivity using the private key here. Cool. Now, other things that you can do is to gather information about the remote servers, something like this: Ansible server 1, hyphen I, inventory. Okay, you will see when trying executing playbooks, Ansible playbooks, you have this here, server 1, as your playbook, or rather, yeah. Then you have to redirect it. This is the inventory that I'm going to be using, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. So here we are trying to get the information about the IPv, that is the IP version, either version 4 or version 6, which you are getting from this command here. Yeah, so how to execute Ansible playbooks to automate your server setup. Now, remember, as of now, we don't have even the Ansible playbook, so we'll skip this bit and look at the Ansible playbooks. Now, this is a playbook.yaml. Remember what we said? We said a playbook is a list of ordered tasks which are to be executed. Now, here we have tasks here, and we also said that it has other other declarations, which includes like the host. We are saying the host will be doing this thing, that is deployment on a cloud instance, to all hosts that are defined in our inventory. And this part here, gather facts, we tell it true. If we were to do it, this is what I said initially, that we'll not be doing a demo, a practical demo on this. But if you have questions, you can follow up with me and answer all those. So one of the tasks that we are doing is to install the required system packages. Now here, when we are talking about a loop, remember what we said, that playbooks, or rather Ansible supports loops. So here we have a loop, and it's written in this format, or rather this. So you have these double curly braces, and it's the items that uh, you'll be looping over those items. And these are the items that we have. That is, we have CURL, we have Python 3 pip, virtual env, Python 3 setup tools, etc. So these are the items that will be installed, and you'll be using a loop to loop on them and ensuring that they are installed. Then the next task here is to ensure that maybe we have added the GPG keys of Docker to our system. Remember, this is our remote server which does not have Docker. We want to ensure that the GPG keys are added. And then we need to add the repository. Remember, initially when we were installing uh, Ansible, here we have this where we want to add the Ansible repository. This is the PPA repository. Same applies when you are installing Docker and you need to install that. Yeah, so this is a snippet of a playbook. So for more information, I think I said I'll be sharing the link to that. Yeah, so here now, this is how we want to execute Ansible playbooks to automate our server setup. And one of those server setups is to ensure that all these items are installed. We have CURL, we have Python 3 pip, virtual env, Python 3 setup tools, etc, etc, and others will follow in this playbook. Those tasks, you can add them here one by one, the way you want them. Yeah, so this is how you run this or rather these commands. Ansible hyphen playbook. Remember, you are running it in your activated virtual environment in your terminal, and this is the first command. This will execute this playbook, and on your terminal you'll see the tasks as they execute, and it will be gathering facts. Remember, here you said gather facts, true. So you'll be seeing, if you said install required system packages, if it's done, you'll see it returns true, and what has already been done, what happened. This was installed, that was installed, that was installed, and it will go to the next step. If the first step, or rather the first task, fails, it cannot go to the next task. It will fail from there. So for it to run completely or to execute completely, all the tasks have to execute. Remember what we said, it's idempotent. So it have to work, because we need to get uniform results from beginning to the end. Then here you want to list the tasks, and if you want to list all the tasks that you have, you can execute this command here. If you want to list the tags, if you want to get the tags of that is named setup, you can do this. If you want to exclude, blah 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 blah. So basically that is that. And yeah, but unless you have questions before I start sharing links and
Any
questions,
questions?
yeah.
You can also type on the chats, Hussein.
Uh, Joseph, I was in your class with Circle CI, so
Yeah,
I just had a thought of how Circle CI will work with Ansible if they can work together.
yeah,
Can
yeah,
it work?
yeah. I remember that bit, and
Mm.
thank you for for reminding me on that. I think we still have sometimes, or rather some few minutes. So let me share this link, then we can get into that just in a minute. Okay, yeah. All right. So that's the GitHub link. Yeah, now how Sarkozy will work with Ansible. So let me stop sharing this and maybe open this. I hope last time we did execute something related to, okay, that link that I've shared has the repo for what we were doing last time. And I know I had promised to do that, but yeah, we never did that. Yeah, so let's come here. Yeah, so the person who have asked about that last bit,
You're not
Sarkozy,
sharing
and
your
yeah,
screen.
yeah, I'm not. But now I am, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, cool. So this, I think, was our main focus last time during Sarkozy. And yeah, he said he was there. So you can remember there was that last bit which I'd already commented out, where we are supposed to execute okay, where we are supposed to execute um, okay. Hmm. Seems today said they won't do my thing. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, but basically that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Let's do this and see if mhm. Yeah. Yeah, today we are not going back to that Sarkozy config. I think we looked at it the last time. So okay, let's give it some few seconds then.
As Joseph does that, if you have any other questions, you can paste them on the chat. Is there any other questions, or you can ask other questions as well? Do we have other questions? Okay, so I think there are no questions.
Okay, maybe today they've not understood about this. Um yeah, but okay, we understand. Can see what to do next time. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't know what today it has decided to do. Okay. All right, so I think I'll answer those questions in line. Uh-huh. Yeah, but I've already shared that. Okay. I don't know what is happening today with Sagosi. Yeah, go ahead.
So there
I
is
don't know
another
what's happening.
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let them ask. Yeah, I'm saying I don't know what's happening today, but I think we did this last time we were together. So whatever is happening, it's not on me. It's on these guys. Hmm, okay. It just stucks in here.
Maybe you can respond to the other questions
Yeah, sure.
if that is not working,
Okay.
or you can just respond to it maybe without showing practically.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's doable. In fact, I just wanted to show it here because we already had it, and if he was in that meetup, he did see it, and I had promised to execute it today, but unfortunately, I don't know what's happening. Yeah, so that's it's doable to 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 execute a playbook using Sakoci, and in that, okay, let me think. Let me open this bit here. Mhm. Then as we answer the other part. Okay. Yeah, so I hope you are seeing my screen. Yeah, so in this bit here, we have the deploy bit, and I'm executing my Ansible, but now here you'll see the way I'm executing it. I'm not highlighting the hosts. The question would be why I've not used the ad hoc commands that I listed. One of the reasons is the format of my Ansible playbook here. And if you look at it, it's kind of complex, but you can understand it from here we are. Yeah, so we are using these variables that we talked about. And if you have these variables, they'll be defining uh, where you want to be executing. One of them you see here, we have the your key, that is the configuration. Okay, for this one I was working on, or rather working with AWS. So you'll be having your access key and your key ID, etc. Yeah, another question here, can Terraform be used with Ansible? Yeah, but as I said, okay, not with Ansible. Ask yourself, how do we use Terraform? Or what do we use Terraform for? And also Ansible, what do we use Ansible for? Basically, you'll be like repeating yourself because both are doing the same thing. For Terraform, you are provisioning the infra, or rather configuring your infra. For Ansible, you are doing the same. So you can't use both simultaneously. But you can use Terraform to do one thing, then the next thing is done by Ansible. Like, for example, you can say you want Terraform to provision your infra, to create your CPUs, to generate the IP addresses and get those IP addresses. Then Ansible will use the created IP address to now do the configuration management. I hope I've answered you. That is done. Any other question?
So there is no other question. So Dan, do you feel answered? Yes, he said thanks. So I think that is the last question that we've had.
Yeah, I'm dropping my, I think, my number and my email you can decide to reach out, then we can answer any other question that you have.
Okay. So are you done now?
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Okay. Good. So thank you, Joseph, and thank you everyone for joining. And sorry about the inconvenience. Somebody who shared the inappropriate things at the other time.
It's okay. It's okay.
So we'll try and ensure that maybe it's only the speaker who is able to present for the upcoming session. So we'll see how to do that so that we are not hacked. So
Yeah, very important to note security.
yeah,
Somewhere security.
sure. So I think that is the end of the session. So if you are not in our community, let me just share. If you are not in our community, you can join. Just allow me to share in a second. So you can just scan the QR code and you can be able to join the community. So we have an upcoming DevOps Summit this next weekend. So apparently it's already full, but for those who had already signed up, the RSVPs, so it's already sold out, but those who signed up, I look forward to meeting you guys there. So it will be good if we can, when you see me, you can say hi, we can talk a little bit. Yeah. Yes, Hussein?
How about the people who are not bookmark it ama ni RSVP?
Those who had not reserved a spot. So
Yes.
unfortunately, we were working with 200 people. So we extended to 250 and it was sold out again. So those are the numbers that we are looking forward to hosting, because we have a capacity that we are looking at for that venue, and also the plans that we have, the food and everything else. We have just planned for a specific number of people. Is that okay, Hussein?
The question is, are we sure the 250 will avail themselves? But it's okay. I had not booked a spot, so it's okay.
So if they don't avail themselves, then we'll tell you on that day. But right now we are just working with the budget. Actually, we are expecting the 200 out of those 250. So we are not expecting 250.
Right, that's okay.
So if all of them show up on that day, it means now we are going to squeeze some things here and there. Yeah.
How
But
about streaming?
we will not be streaming this time, but probably for the next one, we will be well prepared. This is our first summit. So for the next one that we will have next September, we'll be more organized. We'll take in more people. We'll have a wider, a bigger venue, and it will be more organized. But since this is the first one, we just we did our we have to test the environment and see what we can work with, what we can manage, and also organizing it. Since we are doing it for the first time, we're also learning the process. So we have to know what we can manage before we host a big event. Yeah. So, but if you didn't sign up, then you can just wait. In case we update you of anything, then you can come. But we expect that only people who are SVP'd are the ones who will be attending the session, who will be allowed into the session. Yes, Gilbert.
Hello, Sam. So I was asking, is there, are you taking in volunteers to help with planning the summit? I wanted to volunteer.
You want to volunteer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That is very wise. You can reach out to me. Reach out to me on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that is it, guys. See you in the summit and have a good week ahead. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? 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 Hello?
Oh, hi. Hi.
Hi, how are you? Kumbe
I'm
nilikuwa
good.
naongea, you're not hearing me.
Yes,
How are you doing?
I'm good. You?
I'm very fine.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I think we can start by knowing how you guys are doing, and then we proceed from there.
Hi.
Yeah, good. So you can just share how you are doing, how your week was like, and you can tell us anything else. What are you looking forward to this week, and for the summit, in case you have any updates. So we can start with you, Samson. So let me also turn my camera on because Ian has done so. Yeah. Ian, now you left me here.
Hi.
Okay. So, Samson, are you able to share with us?
I was saying I'm doing well.
Okay.
And my week was great.
Yes.
Looking forward for the meet.
Okay. So, what were the highlights for your week? Oh, sorry. Hey, actually, I forgot to end recording. Okay.